She was barely alive when I dragged her out, her nail scraping my arm. And just before she passed out, she gripped my wrist and whispered, "My husband." Those two words flipped my entire life. And within minutes, the investigation started. Chapter 1. The rescue. I don't remember hearing anything at first, just the wind slamming against the broken shed door. I pushed it open, and the moment the beam of my flashlight cut through the darkness, I saw her. She was lying half buried in dirt, clothes torn, breath shallow and sharp, like each one hurt more than the last. For a second, I froze. Not because she looked dead, but because she looked like she had been trying to crawl away from something. Hey, stay with me," I said, dropping to my knees. My hand slid under her shoulder, and she flinched like even my touch burned. Her fingers reached up blindly, trembling, clawing at nothing until they found my arm. Her nails dug into my skin. Not accidental, desperate. I pulled her closer, lifting her carefully, and she gasped, a sound so broken it barely counted as a voice. I could feel cold mud soaking through my clothes as I dragged her out of the shed, inch by inch, the whole structure creaking above us like it could collapse any second. Halfway out, her head rolled against my shoulder. Her lips moved. I leaned closer. What are you trying to say?" Her breath hit my ear, warm, weak, fading. "My husband," just that. 2 words. But the way she said them, like a warning, made every hair on my neck rise. "Your husband? What about him?" But she didn't answer. Her hand slipped from my arm and fell limp. My heart jumped. I checked her pulse again. Still there, faint, but there. I yelled for help, and the distant echo of footsteps came running. By the time the paramedics reached us, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely step back. "What happened?" one of them asked. "She whispered something," I said. "About her husband." The paramedic and the police officer behind him exchanged a quick look. Too quick. Like they already knew something I didn't. "Sir," the officer said, "we're going to need you to answer some questions immediately." Because her whisper didn't just alert me. It started an investigation. And somehow, without knowing how or why, I was already in the middle of it. Chapter 2. Hospital and the husband. The ambulance siren faded into the distance, but the fear inside me didn't. They wheeled her through the sliding doors, and I followed, feeling like every step was a countdown. White walls, bright fluorescent lights. It should have felt safe. Instead, it was a cage. Nurses moved fast, machines beeped, monitors flickered. She was on the stretcher, barely moving. Every shallow breath sounded like a scream muffled by life itself. I grabbed her hand again. She flinched, weakly opening her eyes. "They said you'll be okay," I whispered, though even I didn't believe it. Then the door opened, and he came in. Her husband. Not the one I knew, her real husband. Clean cut, calm, almost too composed. He walked in like he owned the room, like nothing had happened. And for a moment, the world slowed. Her eyes widened. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. The nurses stepped between us, polite but firm. He leaned down, voice smooth. "What happened?" I froze. Everything I had felt, the fear, the panic, the whisper, collided in a single thought. Something was wrong. The way he looked at her wasn't worry. It wasn't concern. It was calculation. I wanted to tell someone, yell, grab a nurse, anything. But words stuck in my throat. She just fainted, I managed. He nodded slowly, as if that explained everything. And then, before I could react, he leaned closer to her, whispering something I couldn't hear. Her body tensed, her eyes darting to me. That whisper from earlier, the one that made every nerve in my body scream, suddenly made sense. The investigation wasn't going to start because of me. It was going to start because of him. I watched as he straightened, giving a calm smile to the nurses. Friendly, polite, yet every movement measured, every gesture deliberate. And then he looked at me. Not angry, not suspicious, just observing. Like he already knew what I had seen. I realized then, sitting in the bright, sterile hallway, that her whisper was more than words. It was a signal, and I was about to be pulled into something far bigger than a fainted woman or a hospital bed. Because the second he walked in, the tension didn't just rise. It exploded. Chapter 3. Investigation begins. The hospital room felt smaller now, walls closing in as the officers arrived. Two detectives, notebooks in hand, moved with precision, scanning faces, gestures, everything. I could feel the weight of their gaze on me even before they spoke. "Sir," one of them said, voice clipped but calm, "we understand you found her. We need a full statement." I swallowed hard, trying to keep my hands from shaking. She was barely alive," I said. And she whispered about her husband. The words barely left my mouth when the husband's calm demeanor shifted, just enough to make me notice. A flicker across his face, quick, almost invisible, but it was there. Suspicion, panic, or both. The detectives leaned forward. "Her husband?" one asked. "You mean the person she lives with?" "Yes," I said, voice tighter than I intended. "The same. She mentioned him. That's all I know." The officer scribbled something, his pen scratching across the page like a metronome of urgency. Then the questions started, endless, precise, layering doubt like bricks. "Where were you when she was injured? Did you see anyone else nearby? Did she say anything else?" Her husband answered first. Smooth. Measured. Too calm. "I was at home. I came immediately when I heard," he said. But something in the timeline didn't add up. Ambulance call log. 2:11 a.m. husband arrival. 2:15 a.m. For minutes. Enough time for anything. The detectives noticed too. Eyebrows knit, pens paused. Then one of them asked, "Did anyone notice injuries on her body? Anything unusual?" I glanced at the nurses, who avoided eye contact, whispering amongst themselves. They knew something, but fear kept their lips sealed. Her husband stepped closer, voice low. She might be exaggerating. Perhaps a fainting spell, nothing more. But the tension in the room shifted. A single lie, polished and smooth, but the detectives didn't miss it. I saw it in their eyes, the cogs turning, calculating. I realized then, every move he made was deliberate, every word calculated. The calm exterior was a mask for something deeper, darker. And the woman's whisper wasn't just a clue. It was a trigger, a spark that lit the fuse for everything that was about to unfold. By the time I left the room for a moment, the detectives were already cross-referencing timelines, checking CCTV footage, questioning staff. I knew one thing for certain. The investigation wasn't just going to uncover what happened to her. It was going to uncover everything he was hiding. And somewhere, deep down, I feared what that truth might be. Chapter 4. The truth begins to surface. The room was quieter now. Monitors beeped steadily, but the tension hung thick enough to choke. She stirred again, eyes fluttering open, but this time they weren't vacant. There was something else, awareness, fear, fragments of memory returning like shards of glass. I knelt beside her. "Can you tell me what happened?" I asked gently, though my heart pounded with urgency. She shook her head weakly, whispering words I almost didn't catch. Then suddenly, clarity hit. He wasn't supposed to be there." My stomach sank. The moment she said it, her husband shifted in the doorway, as if he felt a vibration only he could sense. His composure faltered, just a fraction, but enough for anyone paying attention. A nurse peeked in nervously, clutching a clipboard. "Doctor, she's recalling events, but details are patchy," she murmured. The detectives had returned, subtle but relentless. Their questions grew sharper. "What did you see?" one pressed gently. "Anything unusual about the night?" Her lips trembled. I don't remember clearly, but he." Her gaze darted to her husband. He tried." The husband's hand tightened around the stretcher's edge. Calm, measured, but I could see it, the panic that lurked beneath. The mask was cracking. Then came the secondary clue, a small item that had slipped past everyone's attention. A torn piece of fabric caught in the corner of the bed. The detectives leaned closer, eyes narrowing. Timeline, location, everything. It started connecting like a puzzle. I realized then how meticulous he had been. Every step, every gesture, every calculated move. But even the best plans leave crumbs. A micro twist hit. A nurse admitted seeing him near the shed earlier, but only for a moment. Not enough to confirm anything, yet enough to sow doubt. The woman's memory began to piece together, flashes of that night breaking free from the fog. A scream, a struggle, the shadow of someone she thought she could trust. The words she whispered before, the ones that triggered this whole investigation, began to make sense. And suddenly, I understood. The investigation wasn't just about what happened to her. It was about uncovering everything he was hiding, and the consequences of that truth would ripple further than any of us had imagined. Her husband straightened, realizing the detectives were piecing together his timeline. The calm, polished exterior couldn't hold. His eyes flickered. Fear, calculation, desperation, all at once. And at that moment, I knew the endgame had begun. The pieces were moving. The walls were closing in. And the truth, the horrifying, undeniable truth, was almost ready to explode. Chapter 5. The truth revealed. The hospital room felt heavier than ever. Every glance, every hushed whisper, every measured step carried weight. She lay on the bed, eyes wide, brimming with terror, yet stronger now. Her memory was no longer fragmented. It was a jagged, painful map of the night that had nearly taken her life. The detectives moved in, calm but authoritative. "Sir," one said to her husband, "we have statements, timelines, and now corroborating evidence. We need the truth." For a moment, he froze. His face tightened, jaw rigid, eyes darting. Every second stretched like an eternity. Then he spoke, careful, rehearsed, almost too smooth at first. But the detectives didn't blink. A second glance at the torn fabric, the nurse's testimony, the whispered warning, they were closing in. I didn't mean," he began, faltering. The woman's eyes sharpened. "You tried to stop me from calling for help. You." Her words pierced through the tension. Every syllable exposed the lies he had carefully crafted. The detectives leaned in. "Go on," one said. He crumbled, finally. Every polished movement, every calm facade, evaporated into desperation. The truth spilled. He had planned to cover up something that could have ended her life completely. His motive, twisted and selfish, was laid bare. I watched her reaction, a mix of horror, relief, and disbelief. She gripped my hand tightly, as if anchoring herself to reality while the storm of betrayal and truth unfolded around us. And then, the room exhaled collectively. The tension broke, replaced by the grim relief of clarity. The danger had passed, at least for now. She looked at me, weakly smiling. "Thank you for saving me and believing me." I nodded, words failing me. The investigation had exposed more than just the events of that night. It revealed the depth of deception, the fragility of trust, and the strength of survival. Her husband was taken into custody, silent and defeated, his calm facade shattered. The room slowly emptied, leaving only the faint hum of monitors, the smell of antiseptic, and a lingering sense of justice finally served. I sat beside her bed, letting the reality sink in. She was alive. The truth was known. And in that fragile, fleeting moment of calm, I realized something important. Survival wasn't just about escaping danger. It was about uncovering it, confronting it, and standing through it together. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I allowed myself to breathe.